Imagine a world of birthdays without cake, movies without popcorn, Thanksgivings without turkey. Imagine if you couldn't eat anything at all.
So what is that?
A button.
What's that button for?
Feeding.
This tube feeds 8-year-old Riker 3 times a day and all through the night.
He hooks himself up at school for lunch.
Without it, the only thing he can eat is rice.
You drink tons of rice milk, and then we always have a supply of ready rice pancakes. So he lives on rice pancakes, which we've had to become really inventive. We use rice flour, salt, and sugar, oil, and then rice milk. And they're not like a typical pancake. They kind of end up a little bit flat, but he loves them.
This odd diet is the result of eosinophilic esophagitis, also known as EOE, a disease that Riker's parents discovered when he was just a baby.
About 8 months old, he was sitting in the high chair eating, and he started having an anaphylactic reaction to the food that we were feeding him. We immediately knew something was like drastically wrong. He was coughing and like gasping for air, so we pulled him out of the high chair and we rushed him to the hospital. They couldn't quite figure out what was going on until finally a doctor walked in and said, well, I think he's possibly having an allergic reaction, but it was mild. Next time it won't be.
At first, doctors thought he had food allergies and then pancreatitis. It took years of frustration, doctor's visits, and food testing before Piper actually knew why her son was always sick and in pain.
We immediately scheduled an appointment with the gastroenterologist and quickly found out that he would need to be scoped, which was really scary because he was only 8 months old. So I remember thinking, oh my gosh, so we were just terrified that he was going to be diagnosed. And about 2 weeks went by and we were just anxiously awaiting results. They finally called us and said that he did in fact have eosinophilic esophagitis. And she threw him on a course of steroids and wanted him on steroids, which we were like, okay, as long as he can eat.
But the only food that does not make Riker sick is rice. So the formula from the feeding tube provides all the nutrition that he can't get from a rice-only diet.
What I like about it is I don't have to eat food. What I don't like about it is wearing the backpack all the time.
Do you go to school with your backpack on?
Yes.
Do your friends ask you about it?
Yes.
What do you tell them?
I say I don't want to talk about it right now. And there's someone at school who laughed about it.
Sometimes kids are cruel and don't understand how hard it is for this young man to do what most of us do without even thinking about it.
So we've had problems with like people bullying recently, and that's been really hard. We've had to kind of learn how to cope, and I didn't anticipate that it would happen at 8 years old, but they've made fun of his disability.
Riker says if he could eat his favorite food again, it would be chocolate, not rice. But everything else he eats makes him sick.
Stomach aches, sore throat.
What other things do you throw up?
And I get very sick sometimes.
The formula Riker lives on costs thousands of dollars a month, so in addition to the hassle, it also creates a financial burden for the family. But they all know what could happen if they stop.
Remember when we went and saw a therapist and she asked you what was the scariest thing about having a feeding tube? And what do you remember what you told her?
Dying.
Why do you think you're gonna die?
I don't know. That's what I think on foods.
That if you ate something, you'd die? That's pretty scary. There are some scary allergies out there.
And I'm sure that this is a...
That it will get knocked out or pulled out. Yeah.
1 out of 2,000 people suffer from EOE, a daily dilemma that Riker and his family know all too well.
I want this pulled out, then I can just eat this.
Yeah, so the formula that he
eats is nasty. If gets nasty.
This is our Lifeline formula. It
Is this yours?
pretty much tastes like chalk. He drinks a liter of this a day. So he would have to drink that by mouth, and it doesn't taste good. We've tried to get him to drink it on so many occasions, and it's just not appeasing. Even the flavored ones are gross. So we're hoping one day they'll either figure out a formula that
Tastes good.
tastes good,
Like
or
chocolate.
a medication that will treat this condition. So.
Just
So far, doctors have not found any cure for eosinophilic esophagitis, but they hope to.
Now that we know how to make the diagnosis of eosinophilic esophagitis, it seems to be one of the more common causes of eating problems. In research done here, we found that about 16% of patients who came in for evaluation had an initial concern of feeding problems.
Eosinophilic esophagitis is just one of a family of diseases called eosinophilic gastrointestinal disorders, also known as EGIDs. Dr. Glenn Fruta is one of the foremost authorities on these diseases and heads the EGID program and research at the Children's Hospital in Aurora, Colorado. He says they have learned a lot about the disease in the past few years. Previously, it was frequently misdiagnosed, but he hopes with time they can find a cure.
There is a lot of momentum right now, certainly within the patient communities as well as within the research communities, to work together and continue to help us understand how we can care for patients better, understand the underlying mechanisms, and thereby identify new ways to take care of patients.
As they search for a cure, Dr. Fruta works with a team of other professionals in a clinic specifically for EGIDs. He does his best to advocate for and comfort patients.
Hey, Dr. Fruta, thank you for being the best doctor in the world. My name is John Whitman, and thank you for helping me. And I only have a problem like once a week.
Dr. Fruta treated Dallin shortly after his family learned he has EOE. Dallin is now 13. He found out about the EOE when he was just 4 years old.
It gives you pains a lot. I remember every morning I had to do my nasal spray, breathing treatment, and crystal pills with honey. Yeah, because I didn't like to swallow actual pills.
What was that like?
Horrifying.
Dallin's case is fairly mild, never having needed a feeding tube.
I'm not supposed to have milk, but I have milk anyways.
He's fortunate enough to get away with eating his trigger foods and takes a break from them when he starts to feel sick. How come you're not getting ice cream, Dallin?
Too much milk makes you want to throw up.
So what are you getting instead?
Chips. My doctors didn't think that I could play sports.
How come?
Because they said I had bad asthma.
Although he suffers with asthma, which is commonly found in EOE patients, Dallin plays sports, eats most foods, and lives a normal life with his own quirky flavor. But that is only a wish for Mike Derricott. Last summer, Mike's condition worsened and he could no longer get food to go down his throat, a common symptom found in only adults with EOE.
It was a Saturday. We had just had our 5-year-old boy, so he was just a couple weeks old, and we went to my brother-in-law's house. We were eating some elk steak that he barbecued, and it was a little bit dry, but not too bad. I took a bite, and it felt kind of funny going down, but didn't think anything of it. I took a second bite, and it stopped right here. So I tried to gulp it down with water, but I just kind of choked on it. I tried jumping on the trampoline. I tried hitting my chest. I did all kinds of silly things and didn't go down. I ended up going to the hospital where they put me out, went down and took the steak out. I went back a couple weeks later to see that same doctor, and he told me, yeah, you have something called eosinophilic esophagitis. And I was like, what?
Mike now lives on a liquid-only diet with very few exceptions.
I have to spit oftentimes while I eat. So.
Most days, Mike lives on formula shakes that he or his wife make in a blender.
68 scoops a day.
68?
Yeah, which is, yeah, I'll show you the scoop. That gives me about 2,500 calories. I like to put ice in it because it doesn't taste as bad when it's really cold.
He tries to flavor the formula to make it taste better.
I can have strawberry Nesquik in it because there's no dairy, wheat, soy. It's like just sugar. Hey.
Against my better judgment, I accepted the invitation to give it a try.
Okay, I've just heard this stuff is so terrible. Okay. I know you shouldn't smell things before you drink them, but oh man. Okay.
What does it smell like?
It smells like spoiled milk to me.
It smells like chemicals
Yeah, it's just
and terrible flavoring.
like maybe you shouldn't put this in your body kind of stuff. Okay. Oh gosh, what?
Do you taste the tropical?
Yeah.
Masked by the cherry?
Yeah, it's just a lot. It's very potent. It's really in your face with flavor, and it's like, here, eat this. You need this in your body kind of feeling. Oh wow.
That one's.
It's not terrible.
No, it is.
Just one time was enough for me. Imagine having to drink that 3 times a day for the rest of your life. Mike no longer sits at the table to have dinner with his family, standing in the kitchen while they eat and he drinks his formula.
All right, kiddo. Can you please lean in over?
I want to stand while I'm eating because I can swallow better eating them when I'm sitting.
That's a night day difference from Rick's work. Rick's work school.
Yes.
Were you there, Winter?
Yeah, I don't know. I used to, after, maybe that's the hardest thing, missing dinner with my family, kind of, Like, my little boy Hunter, he would finish his food and I would still be eating because I always eat slow because I got to drink a lot. And he'd always, like almost every dinner, come and sit on my lap and just eat with me. So I'd feed him one and eat. And that was just kind of fun.
I don't know if I'm getting so emotional about it, but actually I do because it's been really hard. But blah. Anyway, it's been hard, but knowing that we now have a plan and there are options. For a long time it felt like everyone we talked to was like, well, figure it out. We're like, I don't know where to start. It's going to be a long time coming still, but I think I think we've hit like that climax of this is super hard.
Lisa and Mike do their best to live a regular, normal life amidst all the crazy food issues. But in the backs of their minds, they know this might not end well.
It's crazy to think that at 34, we've had the discussion about, hey, if I die from this, what should we do? Like, what should we do now to prepare for that? And the what ifs. We've had that conversation in the last couple of months because I don't know, when's the next time I'm going to choke on something and it'll be stuck and I can't breathe and I die.
Like most people who get diagnosed with EOE, at first, Mike and Lisa were in denial. How could this be a threat when no one can even pronounce the name of the disease?
Can you say EE disease? Because I cannot say Eosinophilic Gastrointestinal. I can't say it.
Eosinophilic Eos, which is weird, but close enough, I guess.
Eosinophilic.
Little Bailey Mann might not be able to pronounce it, but she lives with eosinophilic esophagitis, eosinophilic gastritis, and eosinophilic duodenitis. A lot of itises for such a fun-loving little girl.
Hello, everyone, and college students, and YouTube, and Facebook, and Instagram.
Bailey was diagnosed when she was just 4 years old. Now she's 8, and dreams of what it would be like to eat what she wants to eat.
Turkey, and what is that? Grandma's and grandma's. Something mashed potatoes.
For years, Bailey had to follow a strict food list, at one time avoiding up to 11 foods. If she ate the wrong thing, she would pay for it.
Like I get sometimes an itchy throat and I get stomach pains.
And how often do you get those stomach pains?
A lot, pretty much every morning.
But thanks to years of scopes and testing, doctors have narrowed her problem down to just one food.
I don't really know how to explain it, but probably I have an egg allergy.
It's common for EGIDs patients to develop severe allergies on top of what they already have. As part of an oral immunotherapy, Bailey's parents have to put raw egg whites into her chocolate milk every morning.
15 minutes after breakfast, we pull out the eggs, and that's usually what she does. That is pretty accurate, along with some screaming, huh? So we shake it up, and then right now she's on 4 milliliters of this, and then we put it in this cup, and we add some chocolate milk to it. And mix it up really, really well so she doesn't taste the sliminess, huh?
Despite Bailey's fun and bright attitude, dealing with so many EGIDs places a hardship on the entire family. It's difficult to live a normal life when you can't eat normal food, and many people don't understand what she has.
It's not something that's made up. I don't know. I think we often explain it, and they think that we're just maybe overprotective of our kids, and they don't take it very serious until we start to explain some of the situations that we've had, some of the issues we've had, times where we've had to take her into the doctors or even into the hospital. And when we start to explain some of those things, people start to understand a little more how serious it is. And so getting through that, or at least initially, is tough.
It's been our life for so long. I mean, ever since she's had issues since the day she was born. And so I don't really know any different, but it would, I can't imagine what it would be like to just not read labels all the time, not wipe down surfaces, not have a conversation with the adult, whoever she's being left with, whether it's a neighbor or school or wherever. So I'm sure that would be nice. That's all we've ever known.
What is that shirt?
Since EGIDs can be hereditary, living with food concerns is a family affair for the Metcalfs. Father Seth and sons Jonas and Eli all have EOE.
Dad has had EOE?
Yeah.
You never told me that.
My mom had, like Grandma Metcalf would have issues with heartburn and stuff like that. And a lot of my siblings have had at least like heartburn and stuff. I'm the only one who's gotten scoped, but definitely like gastrointestinal type issues run in my family.
Since the state of Utah doesn't cover the cost of formula, some families like the Metcalfs find themselves in unique situations.
We used the Medicaid, the CHIP plan, and like there was a time when
they also received it through WIC until they aged out.
Right. We had to pay close attention to how much, what our income was.
If they make too much money, they no longer qualify for the federal program that pays for the expensive formula.
This is what Jonas lived off of and it supplemented with for years and years.
So Seth had to tell his boss not to give him any raises. And they had to endure other medical procedures. Some were literally a pain in the behind.
Eli's the one that I really feel for because he had to have several colonoscopies, and those are...
You know I'm right here.
Yes, I do. Did you like colonoscopies, Eli?
What?
Did you like getting colonoscopies?
Colonoscopies?
Yeah, I'm hoping you've forgotten about them by now. Those are...
When you went to Cincinnati, do you remember? And you had to
Yeah, that was not fun.
Fortunately for them, their bodies have adapted and they can tolerate more and more foods without getting sick.
My food is not limited.
But not anymore, right, Eli?
Yeah, I don't know how I was allergic to just about everything. And then in like 8 years, I was just fine. I could eat everything except for beer, alcohol, cigarettes, and some other stuff.
Yeah, you're still allergic to those, huh?
Yeah.
Eli had his feeding tube removed 2 months ago, something that he's had almost all of his life. Jonas still has his and was open enough to show me how it works.
You put this in here and then you lock it by doing this.
So then,
Oops.
so that's a direct port into his stomach, so you can see whatever he was drinking and eating started to come out. And you want to give me some water?
So is that pasta from tonight?
That's from his dinner. And then,
I don't know.
so we can then like add some water.
You gotta unclamp it.
Yeah. And then we'll unclamp.
Use
and
gravity.
yeah, so there's a little air bubble in there. We'll get out.
Just raise it high.
You still wash this down.
There it goes.
Being on feeding tubes forces families to adapt, but it can make for interesting family memories.
You remember how at bedtime you and Jonas both would love to have your bedtime snack of Smarties and salt?
I know.
That was what you would eat?
Both of you.
Yeah, both
You
of them.
loved it.
I know.
We would give you like 4 Smarties in a bowl with some salt sprinkled in, and you loved it.
What? I know.
Much like the Metcalfs, the Zundels live with multiple cases of EGIDs. Son Preston has eosinophilic colitis, found in the colon. Daughter Ashley has eosinophilic gastroenteritis, found in the stomach and small intestine.
She was looking gray.
Her hair was falling out.
hair
I was
was
carrying her out of her
falling out.
classroom in the middle of the day because she was so weak.
She would be so weak. Her teacher finally had like a little couch in 3rd grade that he would let her lay
sleep
down on and call me and let me know that she just isn't feeling well. I worked at the school at the time, just part-time, so I would kind of carry her home, or a couple times we had to carry her to the emergency room because she was dehydrated or something.
Little Preston, being sick. One of his scopes, I don't remember where we're at. We've been to a few places. That's our va-va-voom girl, for sure. She just always va-va-voom. And this is, okay, now that I'm like looking at these, this is exactly how it is for us, right? It's like fun things, and then something sneaks in and you have to go to the hospital.
The Zundels never expected to have children with EGIDs and had a hard time when Ashley was first diagnosed.
The worst day for me was when Ashley got her nose tube. When Preston got it, I was expecting it, and that wasn't that big a deal, at least it wasn't to me emotionally.
Yeah.
And you handled it way better than Ashley did.
That's good.
When Ashley did it,
I was older than Ashley.
you were out, and that made a huge difference. Ashley, because she'd been so sick for so long, and we knew this was going to be our solution, because you can't help but get better if you take away all the food. And when we decided to do it, and we drove up to the hospital, I think what really hurt me to begin with was when we went in to get that tube put in, it looked like we were in the hallway of the worst part of the entire building. It's like where they stored all their dirty mops. It's what it looked like. It was just nasty to me. I didn't like it.
It felt that way.
It felt like that. And then they had to put the tube up her nose and it come down into her stomach, and they had to measure it out. And that was horrible in and of itself. And then it comes out of her nose, and it's coiled up in the side of your face, and it's taped to the side of your face. And it's yellow. And it's not a dull, it's a bright yellow.
Yeah, very vibrant.
And it's not attractive. And my cute little girl has this ugly yellow tube on her face, up her nose, and she was crying. She was really trying to be strong, and we were all trying to be strong. And we didn't make it. And we came home and got out of the car, and she ran into her room and sat in the corner with a blanket over her head for about 2.5 hours. And just sat there, and it killed me. And then we had to get her out and go do her first feeding. So we took her downstairs and sat her on the coffee table in front of the TV. I remember what she was watching. We were trying to make it as enjoyable as possible. You mixed up that stupid formula. You poured it into those big syringes. You had to do 3 of them. And they told us that you had to hold it up a certain height, and the higher you go, the faster it would go. But they said you got to start pretty low because this is going to be new for her. So we had it up here about the height of her top of her head, and she started gagging. It was going too fast. We had to drop it down a little bit, and it took us about 45 minutes to get these 3 syringes full of this formula into her.
Which isn't very much.
It's
very
90
small
milliliters. And it was awful. I hate the fact that I had to do this to my girl. I hate the fact that she had to go through this. And we had to do it 4 times a day.
The family had to make a lot of food adjustments, especially on holidays.
We didn't do things for Easter. We ate cold sandwiches because she was not eating food at the time.
We couldn't cook anything.
We couldn't cook anything.
The smells were too hard on her.
We couldn't eat a birthday cake. I mean, that's when she was so restricted. So we bought a cake, and then my brother, my sister, my brother-in-law, he had little dynamite things. Stuck it in the cake. We took it out to a field and just blew it to smithereens. I mean, it was like gone.
The Zundels spent years lobbying to state lawmakers trying to get insurance coverage for families in Utah who depend on formula.
We just kept trying to get our insurance to pay for it, and it just seemed so unfair that the insurance was willing to go ahead and pay for everything required to get the surgery, for her to have a feeding tube, all the supplies every single month, for an IV pole, for all of her tubing, for all the medical supplies that come with that, which is quite expensive, but not willing to buy the formula that goes in it.
Although the state still doesn't cover the cost of formula, fortunately, a lot of people, including strangers, willingly helped them deal with their food dilemma.
When we were trying to introduce foods, we would have neighbors that would bring over turkey drippings because turkey was safe for Ashley.
We'd use it to flavor everything. She could do turkey, rice, and her sweet potatoes.
A lady that they did an article about her, and she had read it and contacted, at that time, a lawyer that we were working with to try and fight for our insurance to pay for the formula. And she donated $5,000 to our family. I mean, a complete, complete stranger. We didn't know her at all. We have been so blessed, really, from neighbors and people and just strangers who have done some pretty awesome things for our family.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
Researchers still don't know what causes an eosinophilic gastrointestinal disorder, but answers are slowly coming to light.
We often wonder what may cause eosinophilic esophagitis, and actually for any disease there is often a genetic predisposition for having a problem, and likewise is the case for eosinophilic esophagitis, in which a number of genes have now been identified to be associated with eosinophilic esophagitis, or EOE. For patients, they may encounter a trigger, such as a food trigger or perhaps an environmental allergen that may cause those genes to become active and cause the type of symptom complex or the inflammation of the esophagus with eosinophils.
Taylor Benson manages the research lab at the Children's Hospital in Colorado. Today, she's looking at slides with esophagus samples.
You see these cells where there's kind of like a white halo around them. Those are eosinophils.
Eosinophils are white blood cells that are good for fighting disease, but they don't belong in the esophagus. When they accumulate in large numbers and affect the way someone handles food, that's when they're diagnosed.
This section is really sick. This section is really sick. But if you go across, like, that section really isn't. And so you only get like a small portion from humans, so sometimes it is kind of hard to tell.
Funding and awareness are the two factors slowing the research on EGIDs, mostly because they are rare diseases. But organizations like APFID, UFAN, Cured are all helping to raise awareness and help secure funding for research. But until they do find a cure, those suffering with EGIDs have to look for the positive.
I was actually able to eat a tiny bit of turkey and a tiny bit of, I did some squash. Anyway, so here I am, standing up. Happy Thanksgiving.
Mike and Lisa Derricotts say that this has strengthened their marriage and brought them closer as a couple.
If I'm on Neocate, if I'm on the liquid diet for 5 years, but it leads to me being able to eat something, great. And in the end, it's most important just to be alive and have my life with my wife and my children and my family. Right? And if I live the rest of my life drinking Neocate, great. At least I get to live. but I'd rather deal with some food.
The Metcalf family says they wouldn't change their circumstances even if they could.
Everybody has their unique challenges in their life, and mine are, or my kids are just more manifest on the outside and other people can see them, but at the same time we have some fantastic kids, and like who they are is wonderful, and I love our family. The whole package together is pretty incredible.
Ashley Zundel is now serving as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Canada.
It's a very big difference. We never thought that she'd get to that stage.
And Preston is a senior in high school, hoping to study stage management when he gets to college.
You know, I can take, you know, what's been given to me, I can, you know, still get through life, and I can always know that, like, you know, well, you know, what in front of me is difficult, but it's not going to be as difficult as, you know, as other things that I faced with, because I know with and because of my illness.
For the first time in years, little Bailey Mann got to eat turkey and mashed potatoes and stuffing at Thanksgiving at her grandmother's house, without the fear of having a reaction. Little Riker and his family continue to adapt to find cheerful ways to deal with his disease.
Happy Thanksgiving! We are creating new traditions and we are headed to a movie.
And we're going to Hi! Happy Thanksgiving! We're going to Wreck-It Ralph. It's going to be really fun.
Despite his condition, that is not who he is. But he is a bright, beautiful, young, very smart kid, and is honestly the most empathetic child I've ever met in my life.
And I'm very, 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 very good at math.
He's really good at math.
I just don't worry about it, because I like to worry about other things.
Like girls?
No.
No one who has an eosinophilic gastrointestinal disorder knows what the future will bring. But they do the best they can every day and hope that the food they eat won't stop them from enjoying life.